Basically, in the initial game, through your actions as an agent, you unwittingly released a virus in Pacific City. 10 years later, that virus has taken hold. The consequences is the agency slowly but surely retreating back from Pacific City to the agency tower, and the general populace responded by creating what can only be described as a terrorist organisation. Civil war ensued.
Yeah. So what's happened here is that the agency's in a particularly difficult position. The civil uprising that created the organisation known as the Cell is basically fighting against the agency now. And what happened was that the Cell have sabotaged the agent program. So the agency is now in a position where it's only literally just getting the agent program back online, and that's where the player comes into Crackdown 2. And so when we talk about the city, we have to talk about the city as a living, breathing entity. We always think of Pacific City in Crackdown 2 as a character in that game. It's a key aspect of Crackdown, it always has been. And the way that the city's evolved is that now that in daytime, the population are really struggling to survive. You know, it's about gathering resources in the day so that you can survive through the night, because the freaks come out at night. So just giving you a little taster here of the kind of environment that the people live in the daytime. You know, they're struggling, they're trying to arm cars, they're sort of bolting on bits of scrap metal onto cars and creating sort of like the machines that effectively give you an ability to fight against the freaks. It's about sort of trying to harvest resources, fuel, anything, that kind of thing, weapons, and you know, here just flying around very briefly, you can see some of the kind of new vehicles, a lot of new environment, and you know, sort of you've got to sort of imagine in your head here the context of the daytime of Crackdown 2 being a struggle to survive. It's a little bit empty because we want to create at night a big contrast between what happens in terms of it being quiet in the daytime. At night, you get a big sense of being overwhelmed by a crowd of enemies. So that really picks up on a thing from Crackdown we always felt was a little bit of a problem. The player always got to interact with the pedestrians, so every time they tried to do that, you were punished, you were slapped, you killed pedestrians, you were told off. And it was really nice to mow down crowds of people, you know, it's good fun. So we really wanted to build that into a mechanic, which we'll come on to a bit later and we'll show you how that works. But here I'm just going to fly around a little bit in the environment. I want to talk about Hope Springs, which is the area we're in at the moment, and this is all completely new in terms of the structure. It's a great new 3D platforming space. We're having a lot of fun, as you'll see, in this space with deathmatch and things like that. So you know, it's really holding on to the key elements of Crackdown, and that is, you know, a 3D vertical platformer, completely free for.
All new orbs.
All new orbs.
Yeah, orbs like a crack in Crackdown.
Find more crack. But just talking a little bit about the kind of look and feel of Crackdown, we wanted to retain that vibrancy that Crackdown has, but we also wanted to create a lot more contrast. We've really upped the tech, and you know, we've wanted to create a nice feeling of depth, a nice feeling of colour and life. So it still retains that Crackdown feel, but you know, we increased contrast. We've got nice new colour sets, and
this is only 60%, so
yeah.
No full screen passes done, no card light, no skybox, all that stuff has to come in.
So the kind of one of the things that people really liked in Crackdown is the draw distance. You know, we've really turned up a lot, and the level of detail that we have across the world now is quite immense. I'm just going to cycle through a few different periods of time of day and things like that, because time of day in Crackdown 2 plays a very fundamental role in gameplay.
And the gameplay split fundamentally between daytime and nighttime, and basically humans and freaks respectively. The personality of the world will change dramatically as soon as the sun sets and the sun rises. You will see such a personality change.
So we're going to briefly show you some of the new combat, new weapons, new abilities that the agent has. I'm just going to quickly level myself up and go through the progression up to level 5. Now, level 5 agent's looking pretty mean. Please do forgive the fact that the characters, the models are a little bit darkly lit at the moment. This is very much in progress on the character lighting. So, pretty badass agent we've got now. So, I don't know if you want to speak a little bit about the agents as a weapon next week.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's a number of things we're trying to do. I mean, Jim's building a new weapon just now, which is one of which we'll come to that very soon. What we're trying to do is create, basically, as the agent progresses, we want him to feel more like a weapon than a human being. That he was the really, really brutal individual, or an individual, if you can call him that. He's a fundamentally a tool of the agency, but we've really tried to up the stakes on the agent and just make him look like what he is, and which is just an absolute weapon, extreme weapon.
So we've just flown over to a location that people might recognise, and we can see here that the old observatory is taking a bit of a beating. I'm just going to hand the control over to Steve because there's a lot that we're about to show you here, and so it's going to happen pretty quickly. But this is an element of something we call a free breach. Now, free breach is a little bit incidental, but this is a mechanic of how freaks come out and identify the player, and using this we can show you elements of new combat, fighting against massive numbers of AI, which is very fun. So we'll just briefly wait for this to kick off.
And of course, lots of BSU.
So straight away we've got some new elements here. You can see there was some freaks just jumping out into the air and into the ground. Steve's going to let them build up a little bit.
If you want God mode, that would be
Sorry,
very beneficial.
That's how you can be killed.
Yeah.
So he's just going to let the crowd build up a little bit. Straight away, new combat hand to hand. One of the criticisms of Crackdown is that there's not much variety in hand-to-hand combat, and that's completely fair, and we completely agree. So what we've done now is we've got a new fluid kind of combo system between various different moves, punches, kicks, and they string together nicely against lots of crowds of people and enemies. So it's nice and tactile and good fun. Again, ground stomp, which didn't quite work there. So next thing, yeah, and
we're really trying to up that environment as a source of weapons. And as you can see, we made a big effort to try and get some fairly brutal clubs inside the game. Again, just trying to up the areas. The areas that people are having an awful lot of fun in the first game were really trying to up the stakes. So as you can see,
I mean, this is an element we really want to try and push, that anything can be a weapon in Crackdown too. And it's great that you used to be able to throw cards and objects at people, but you used to do so much more now. The combat's just so much more involved, and it's just great fun to just kill people around the head with giant objects. I can't deny a childish-like attitude to it.
And another thing we've really focused on is the actual weapons, and this is one of the UV weapons. This is again, it's part weapon, part toy. It is basically the nemesis of the freaks.
Yeah. So you can see here that it's an energy weapon. It acts like a giant repulsor as well as a simple shotgun. But not only is it just fired against people, but you can fire it against objects. And I think Steve can just round up a little.
I was just yeah, so you can affect vehicles, you can.
So yeah, and that just showing you that there. It's there's a lot to go through, but the other thing as well is that we wanted to create Crackdown 2 at a level of threat against the player. It's very easy to escape threat in Crackdown 1. You can go on a road and no one ever follows you.
No, it is not.
Now there's the freaks actually follow you anywhere up and down and across. So we've got all directions covered there. That's pretty good. And but the real purpose of that is to make sure the player feels like they're no longer the most powerful thing in Pacific City. The agents are in a fight, and it's a not a fair fight. The freaks are going to really take a beating against it.
It also cements this, verticality is very important to Crackdown. It's very dear to our hearts. So having the enemies follow you around that vertical playground is important.
Yeah, absolutely.
And again, I mean, these are fairly low level opponents that we're fighting just now. We will have a real family tree of nastiness when it comes to the freaks.
And then just one more thing to add to all of this as well is that this is fundamentally a four-player co-op campaign game, and this kind of action that you have on your own is great, but you add in the elements of completely open, uncontrolled 4-player co-op as well, and it's just immense fun. You know, if you can just imagine a scenario of all of you just at any point in the city, you could converge, you can spread out, fight against crowds and crowds of thousands of freaks. So it's great fun. The other element which is going to come on to in a moment is, of course, that we want to retain the kind of gameplay structure from the first game. And we're going to just quickly run through the beginnings of a mission and show you the daytime, the contrast to the nighttime combat. And we're going to do this a little bit of co-op. Peter's going to join in and help me.